More than 820 million people live in chronic hunger, and more than 1 billion live on less than $1 a day. There are now an estimated 963 million people, 14% of the world's population, going hungry in 2008. That's up by 40 million from last year. The driving force of the world is money. This is why a lot of horrible things happen in the world, because people do anything for money, even if it takes employing kids to do bad jobs for almost nothing. Look at the diamond crisis in Africa. There are thousands of underfed, underpaid workers, knee-deep in muddy rivers every day, working for 7 cents. And why do these people keep working? Fortune magazine interviewed one of these workers. He said, "If I find a big diamond, I can afford to go to school. I can learn, and then I can help my family, and maybe even my village." People work every day just for the chance that they could get what we get for free in America. This is the effect of the world running on money. Some people make it big and some people get screwed. When a powerful country has a problem with resources, they go to weaker countries that have that resource. Think about the US and oil. My teacher once said, "America lets the monsters play in their own sandbox, unless the monsters have oil," which I find to be very true. Americans seem to be very concerned with the world problems when it threatens something that they want. I'm not trying to say America doesn't do anything, though. There are plenty of private organizations in America that donate a lot of money to things like poverty and hunger. Take the IMF, for example. It lends to countries to provide temporary financing and supports policies aimed towards correcting underlying problems. The loans they provide to low-income countries are especially aimed at poverty reduction, or the very popular ONE campaign. According to their website, ONE is a grassroots campaign and advocacy organization supported by more than 2 million people who are committed to the fight against extreme poverty and preventable disease. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation also works with people in poverty. However, what is different about them is they are not just sending money to feed people. Their goal is to help people to become sustainable and to be able to work for food and money themselves. Another thing that stands in the way of poverty is human rights and women's status. In Investing in Development, a practical plan to achieve the Millennium Development Goals, it states some of the best ways to reducing poverty are linked towards women's status. Reasons like empowering women with skills, literacy, numeracy, and economic rights to engage in off-farm employment, and empowering women to gain access to family planning services, including information gaps. Sometimes the place you're born is the only reason you're in poverty or not. People in Africa are born in poor villages with almost no access to food and water, and a lot of these kids can't make it past 5. Or take it for places like Latin America, where it seems like the only access you can have is in the drug industry, and if you're not, you're most likely living in the slums. These are examples of how geographic data can affect your standard of living. So then, what needs to be done? The BBC reported that 38% of Africans do not have access to clean drinking water, by far the highest proportion in any region of the world, and 40% of them do not have access to basic sanitation. Both of these figures need to be halved by 2015 if Africa is to meet the Millennium Development Goals. Dr. Albert Wright, the chair of the African Water Task Force, stated that currently only half the countries in Africa receive any help with water, and that the water facility could help raise that percentage by spreading the money around. This proves that money is still a problem. Like I said before, a money investment is required. These countries can't do it themselves. They are already so far behind. According to the World Bank, some of the poorest countries owe up to $250 billion. Debt is weighing down countries way too much. And I think, as Americans, maybe we should let up, seeing as that we're already the worst of all industrialized countries when it comes to giving. A mere 0.03% of our money is donated. Americans, and me included, have become numb to what is going on in the world. I can see and hear things on the TV that are so shocking, but forget about them right when the commercial ends. It's just easier to forget about it than to think about it and feel guilty. There's way too big of a gap between the rich and the poor, and Americans have become way too good at ignoring this. Partly because we don't see it firsthand. The majority of the suffering is on the other side of the world. I'm sure if these things were happening right here, or if people could see how unhealthy people are, that they would do something. It's crazy to think that Americans spend billions of dollars a year on weight loss programs and dieting plans, and people in Africa try their hardest just to eat enough to survive. There's something wrong when one side of the world is eating themselves to death and the other side is starving. If only we could find some sort of balance. The problem is, people are ill-informed. Either that, or they're just ignoring the cries for help.